Welcome to our video on the art of storytelling in marketing. In today's world, where consumers are bombarded with countless ads and messages every day, it's more important than ever to stand out from the crowd. One way to do that is through the power of storytelling. In this video, we'll explore how storytelling can help you connect with your audience, build trust, and ultimately drive sales. So, let's get started. Before we dive into the how-tos of storytelling, let's first explore why it matters in marketing. At its core, storytelling is about creating an emotional connection with your audience. It's about tapping into their hopes, fears, and desires, and showing them how your product or service can help them achieve their goals. By telling a compelling story, you can engage your audience on a deeper level and make them more likely to remember your brand. So, what makes a great marketing story? There are a few key elements to keep in mind. First, your story should have a clear and relatable protagonist. This could be your customer, or it could be a fictional character who represents your target audience. Next, your story should have a clear conflict or challenge that your protagonist is facing. This could be a problem that your product or service solves, or it could be a more abstract challenge that your audience can relate to. Finally, your story should have a clear resolution or outcome that shows how your product or service helped your protagonist overcome their challenge. To help illustrate these elements, let's look at a few examples of great marketing stories. One example is the Dove Real Beauty campaign, which featured real women of all shapes and sizes instead of the typical airbrush models. By showcasing real women and celebrating their natural beauty, Dove was able to connect with their audience on a deeper level and build trust. Another example is the Always Hash Like a Girl campaign, which aimed to empower young girls and challenge gender stereotypes. By telling a powerful story about the impact of language on self-esteem, Always was able to create a strong emotional connection with their audience and drive sales. In conclusion, storytelling is a powerful tool for marketers looking to connect with their audience and drive sales. By focusing on the key elements of a great marketing story and looking to examples of successful campaigns, you can create a compelling narrative that resonates with your audience and helps you stand out from the crowd. So, start thinking about your own brand story and how you can use it to connect with your customers. Thanks for watching. In today's world, where consumers are constantly bombarded with ads and marketing messages, it's more important than ever to stand out from the crowd. One way to do that is through the power of storytelling. Storytelling has been a part of human culture for thousands of years, and it's a powerful tool for marketers looking to connect with their audience. So, why is storytelling so important in marketing? For one, stories are more memorable than facts or statistics. When we hear a story, our brains are more engaged and we're more likely to remember the information. This is because stories activate multiple parts of our brain, including the sensory cortex, which processes sensory information like sights, sounds, and smells. Additionally, stories are more emotionally engaging than other forms of communication. When we hear a story, we're more likely to feel empathy for the characters and become emotionally invested in the outcome. This emotional connection can help build trust and loyalty with your audience, which can ultimately lead to increased sales and customer retention. Finally, storytelling can help differentiate your brand from your competitors. In a crowded marketplace, it's important to have a unique brand story that sets you apart. By telling a compelling story about your brand, you can create a strong emotional connection with your audience and make them more likely to choose your product or service over your competitors. In the next segment, we'll explore the key elements of a great marketing story and how you can use them to create a compelling narrative for your brand. Now that we've explored why storytelling is important in marketing, let's dive into the key elements of a great marketing story. There are a few key components that every great marketing story should have. First, your story should have a clear and relatable protagonist. This could be your customer, or it could be a fictional character who represents your target audience. Your protagonist should be someone that your audience can relate to and empathize with. Next, your story should have a clear conflict or challenge that your protagonist is facing. This could be a problem that your product or service solves, or it could be a more abstract challenge that your audience can relate to. The conflict should be something that your audience cares about and wants to see resolved. Finally, your story should have a clear resolution or outcome that shows how your product or service helped your protagonist overcome their challenge. This could be a happy ending where everything works out perfectly, or it could be a more realistic ending where your protagonist still faces some challenges but is better off because of your product or service. By including these key elements in your marketing story, you can create a compelling narrative that resonates with your audience and helps build trust and loyalty with your brand. In the next segment, we'll look at some examples of great marketing stories and how they use these key elements to create a powerful emotional connection with their audience. Now that we've explored the key elements of a great marketing story, let's look at some examples of successful campaigns that have used storytelling to connect with their audience. One example is the Share a Coke campaign by Coca-Cola. This campaign featured personalized Coke bottles with people's names on them, encouraging customers to share a Coke with their friends and loved ones. By using the personalization of names, Coca-Cola was able to create a sense of connection and community with their audience, and the campaign was a huge success. Another example is the Real Beauty campaign by Dove. This campaign featured real women of all shapes and sizes instead of the typical airbrushed models. By showcasing real women and celebrating their natural beauty, Dove was able to connect with their audience on a deeper level and build trust. Finally, the Like a Girl campaign by Always aimed to empower young girls and challenge gender stereotypes. By telling a powerful story about the impact of language on self-esteem, Always was able to create a strong emotional connection with their audience and drive sales. These campaigns all use the key elements of a great marketing story, including a relatable protagonist, a clear conflict or challenge, and a clear resolution or outcome. By telling a compelling story that resonated with their audience, these brands were able to build trust and loyalty and ultimately drive sales. In the final segment, we'll recap what we've learned about the art of storytelling in marketing and provide some tips for how you can use storytelling to connect with your audience. In this video, we've explored the art of storytelling in marketing and how it can help you connect with your audience, build trust, and ultimately drive sales. We've looked at the importance of storytelling in marketing, the key elements of a great marketing story, and some examples of successful campaigns that have used storytelling to connect with their audience. So, how can you use storytelling to connect with your audience? Here are a few tips. First, know your audience. To create a compelling story, you need to understand your audience's hopes, fears, and desires. What are their pain points, and how can your product or service help solve them? Second, be authentic. Your story should be true to your brand and your values. Don't try to be something you're not, or your audience will see right through it. Third, keep it simple. Your story should be easy to understand and remember. Don't overload your audience with too much information or too many characters. Fourth, use visuals. Visuals can help bring your story to life and make it more engaging for your audience. Finally, test and iterate. Don't be afraid to try different stories and see what resonates with your audience. Use data and feedback to refine your story and make it even more effective. By following these tips and using the key elements of a great marketing story, you can create a compelling narrative that resonates with your audience and helps you stand out from the crowd. Thanks for watching, and happy storytelling.